Alright, we're going to finish Grace Hopper, Queen of Computer Code. So let's review what we read last time. So we learned that Grace was amazing at coding. When she was working, she realized that sometimes she did the same code over and over again. So she learned how to tell the machine how to do it faster. We learned when she was a kid she was a scientist because she was always asking questions. She wanted to know how a clock works, so she took it apart. And then finally it took her 7 clocks, and then she was finally able to figure it out. And she was definitely an engineer. So when she had a problem, she always tried to find a solution. So she realized that her dolls didn't really have stairs, so she ended up building an elevator. When she was in high school, she was applying to college, right? And instead of Spanish, she was taking Latin, and she didn't do so well. So she had to study before trying again. And then the second time she tried, they accepted her in college. And then when there was adventure, she was always trying new things. She was always helping other students, and she did pretty fun experiments too. I want to say we stopped here. I'm gonna start from here. Let's see what happens next. All right. So based on the Navy's requirements for new recruits at the time, Grace was too old and too skinny to enlist. Oh, I think we did skip one. Sorry, I'm going to start here. When Grace moved on to graduate school, so when you finish college, you can go study some more and go to graduate school. She went to Yale University. There was only one other woman in her class. This didn't bother Grace at all, though. Grace wanted to share her passion for math, so she took a job teaching at Vassar College. Her classes were always both practical and fun. Even though Grace loved teaching, America was at war and needed the best mathematicians to design weapons. Patriotic Grace wanted to help her country, so she tried to enlist in the Navy. So instead of going to NASA like Katherine Johnson, she wanted to go to the Navy. So that's like very similar to the Army, but that proved to be a problem. All right, so the story has another problem. Based on the Navy's requirements for new recruits at the time, Grace was too old and too skinny to enlist. She was 36 already and weighed only 105 pounds. Grace could be very persuasive, however. It took her more than a year, but Grace convinced the Navy that they needed her. So at first, the Navy told her, no, you're too old and you're too skinny. But she didn't give up. She kept trying. And they finally accepted. Let's see what happens next. Because of her superior math skills, Grace was assigned to write programs for one of the first computers ever built, the Mark I. Only a few people had ever programmed before, so she had to learn how to do it on her own. One late summer day, a co-worker burst into Grace's office. The new computer, the Mark II, had stopped working. She gasped. So instead of said, they said she gasped. Cool descriptive word. This had never happened before, not with any of her programs. Grace thought it had to be a prank. After all, she loved playing jokes on her co-workers. Maybe other engineers were trying to get revenge, but they weren't. The computer really wasn't working. Uh-oh, what's gonna happen? For hours, Grace and her team reviewed the code, but could find no error. So she was checking her coding, but there wasn't any mistake. It was as if the green ceramic Giblin that always sat in Grace's office had come to life and sneaked into the machine. That was it. Maybe the problem wasn't her coding program. Maybe it was the computer. Grace jumped to her feet, hurried down the hall, and the immense computer room usually thumped with clicks and metal switches and a world of but today it was silent. Let's see if she finds. Grace and her team searched everywhere for the problem. Grace used her pocket mirror to look inside the machine. She angled it this way and that. But no matter where the engineers looked, they didn't see anything wrong with it. No loose wires or stray sparks, not even a naughty monster. The engineers were stumped. That means they were stuck. They had checked everything. What could be causing the problem? Then someone saw it. A moth was trapped inside, blocking a switch from working properly. Oh, do you see the moth? So we learned about butterflies, right? They look very similar to moths, but moths are active at night. It looks like it was blocking that switch. One of the engineers borrowed Grace's eyebrow tweezers and removed the dead moth. The computer started up again with no problem. Being good scientists, Grace and her team tapped the moth into the logbook to record their unusual finding. They added a note, the first actual case of a computer bug being found. Ever since then, because of Grace's sense of humor, computer glitches, that means computer mistakes, are often called computer bugs. Pretty cool. So if you go to college and you study computer science, like coding, and there's a mistake in the computer or your coding, they usually call it a computer bug, thanks to Grace. Let's see what happens. Early computers didn't understand letters or words, only programs filled with lines and lines of zeros and ones. And as Grace worked on a brand new computer, she thought about ways to make the programming even easier. Not everybody was as comfortable thinking in numbers as she was. Grace wanted everyone or anyone to be able to use computers, not just scientists and engineers. Grace glanced at the wall clock and she had rigged to run backward. It reminded her to use her imagination. Unconventional thinking was often the key to solving problems. So she wanted a computer where everybody can use it, not just scientists. And today, anyone can use a computer. So it was thanks to her and a bunch of other scientists. Let's see what happens. While she drew, she asked herself questions. Why should people have to learn computer language? Coding. Why couldn't computers learn people language? And she found out they could. Grace invented a program that let people use words to tell the machine what to do. Her program, named Flowmatic, included simple English commands like multiply and other commands into instructions the computer could understand. Pretty cool. While Grace was 60 years old, the Navy forced her to retire. So when you're in your 60s or 70s, you stop working. They said she was too old to serve, but they made her retire. It wasn't her choice. Usually people have a choice. And it says right here, dialogue. It was the saddest day of my life. Oh, poor Grace. Within a few months, they realized the mistake they had made and asked her to return for a short 6-month assignment. The short assignment lasted for 20 years, though. That's crazy. So she ended up working till she was 80 years old. That's amazing. The Navy's like, wait, we need you. Grace, now an admiral, finally retired from the Navy for a second time at the age of 80. For almost 50 years, Grace Hopper, the queen of computer code, dedicated her life to solving computer problems. And no wonder people called her Amazing Grace. The end.